What if the hardest chains you'll ever face aren't made of steel? What if they're invisible, clamped not on your wrists, but on your attention? What if these chains are forged by the very parts of you that you refuse to see? We all crave freedom, right? The freedom to choose our path, to make our own decisions, to be the architects of our own lives. But what if I told you that for most of us, that feeling of freedom is an illusion, a carefully constructed story we tell ourselves? Carl Jung, one of the pioneers of psychology, dropped a truth bomb that echoes through the decades. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Let that sink in for a moment. All those times you felt like life just happened to you. That string of bad luck, that recurring pattern in your relationships or your career that you just can't seem to break. Jung is suggesting that it isn't fate. It isn't bad luck. It's your own unconscious mind pulling the strings from behind the curtain. You re not free, because you re be an asterisk. Lived asterisk by the very things you won T-face. Think about it like this. Your conscious mind, the part of you listening to this right now, is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the captain on the deck of a massive ship. But below the water, in the vast, dark expanse of your unconscious, are powerful currents and hidden engines that are actually steering the vessel. These are your shadows, your personas, your complexes. These are your invisible jailers. They hijack your choices, dictate your reactions, and engineer your fate while you, the captain, are busy looking at the horizon, believing you're in full control. So, what is this shadow? The shadow is everything you've repressed about yourself. It's the parts of you that you've deemed unacceptable, ugly, or weak. Maybe it's your anger, your envy, your laziness, your vulnerability. Because you refuse to acknowledge these traits, you don't get rid of them. They don't disappear. Instead, they go underground and gain power. They operate in the dark, sabotaging your best intentions. Have you ever exploded in anger over something trivial and later thought, where did that come from? That was your shadow, bursting out after being locked away for too long. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Sooner or later, it's going to shoot to the surface, and you won't control where it goes. Then there's the persona. This is the mask you wear for the world. The good employee, the perfect parent, the funny friend. It's the curated version of you that's designed to win approval and fit in. There's nothing inherently wrong with having a persona. We all need one to navigate social life. The prison is built when you mistake the mask for your actual face. You become so identified with this role that you lose touch with who you really are underneath. You start making decisions, not based on your authentic desires, but on what your persona should do. You stay in a job you hate because it's what a successful person does. You suppress your true feelings to be the easygoing partner. You're living a script, not a life. And the scariest part, you wrote the script, and then you forgot you were the author. And finally, the complexes. These are like emotional landmines buried in your psyche, usually formed around intense experiences or core wounds from your past. Maybe you have a failure complex from being criticized as a child, so now you procrastinate on any important task because you're terrified of not being perfect. Or perhaps an abandonment complex makes you clingy in relationships, or push people away before they can leave you. These complexes are emotional vortexes. When they get triggered, they suck all your rational thought and emotional energy into them. They create a distorted reality. You're no longer responding to the present moment. You're reliving an old wound over and over again, hijacked by a ghost from your past. You think you're making a choice, but really, the complex is choosing for you. Freedom, true freedom, isn't about breaking out of a physical jail. It's about becoming aware of these internal jailers. It begins the moment you can name them, the moment you can watch them move in real time. It's the moment you catch yourself about to react and can ask, is this me? Or is this my shadow? Is this my authentic self? Or is this just my persona? Is this a response to reality? Or is a complex being triggered? This is the beginning of making the unconscious. It's the work of a lifetime, but it's the only work that leads to genuine liberation. It asks the difference between being a pawn of fate and becoming the master of your own destiny. So, let's start now. Take a moment and think. List the last 3 impulsive decisions you regret. The times you acted without thinking and it backfired. Got 'em. Hold on to that list. In part dos, we're going to unmask these three. Jealousy, persona, projection, and the complexize in even greater detail. And I'll give you the first counterspell to break their hold. The power of strategic silence. Have you ever felt like you're playing a part in your own life? Like you're wearing a costume that's just a little too tight, a little too heavy? That's your persona. It's the mask we all craft to win approval, to fit in, to be seen as the good employee, the cool friend, the perfect partner. It gets us nods of approval, sure, but what's the cost? With every compliment it receives, it suffocates your spine a little more, pushing your true self further into the shadows. You become a collection of expectations, a performance so well rehearsed, you forget the actor underneath. This isn't just about being polite. It's about a fundamental disconnect from who you are. The persona promises safety, but delivers a gilded cage. It thrives on applause and withers in the face of authenticity. Now, let's talk about the second jailer. Projection. Have you ever met someone and instantly disliked them? Or felt an irrational sense of irritation? Or maybe you've put someone on a pedestal, seeing them as a flawless hero. That's projection at work. It's a psychological defense mechanism where we take the parts of ourselves we can't accept, our anger, our envy, our insecurities, even our renowned brilliance, and we paint them onto other people. It's easier to see someone else as arrogant than to confront our own pride. It's easier to call someone else weak than to face our own vulnerability. Projection turns the world into a mirror, but we're convinced it's a window. We start fights with our own reflection, judging others for the very traits we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. It keeps us blind, locked in a cycle of blame and misunderstanding, forever pointing a finger outward to avoid looking inward. And that brings us to the third, and perhaps most volatile jailer, complexes. Complexes are the emotional landmines buried deep in our psyche. They are clusters of feelings, thoughts, and memories tied to a specific theme, often stemming from childhood experiences or trauma. Think of the inferiority complex, or the savior complex. When something in the present moment triggers one of these landmines, it's like a switch is flipped. The complex seizes the wheel. Suddenly, you're not a rational adult anymore. You're a scared child, a wounded teenager, an enraged victim. You overreact, you shut down, you lash out. These aren't just bad moods. They are autonomous forces within you that hijack your behavior. They dictate your reactions, whispering poison in your ear, convincing you that this minor disagreement is a full-blown catastrophe, that this small mistake is proof of your utter worthlessness. They script your life in secret, turning you into a puppet dancing on the strings of past pain. Together, these three jailers persona, projection, and complexes form an unholy trinity that runs your life from behind the scenes. The persona keeps you performing, the projection keeps you blaming, and the complexes keep you reacting. They create a reality that feels solid but is actually a prison of your own making. So, how do you begin to break free? The first act of rebellion, the first taste of true power, is not a grand battle. It's a quiet retreat. It's an act of radical withdrawal. You must stop feeding them. These jailers survive on your energy, your attention, your automatic reactions. So, here's the first step. Withdraw your energy. When you feel the urge to put on the mask, to please, when you feel the hot rush of judgment towards someone else, when you feel that old, familiar ache of a complex being triggered, pause. In that pose, you reclaim your power. Answer slowly. Let people meet your silence instead of your performance. Let them sit with the discomfort of not getting the reaction they expect. Pay attention to what happens next. Notice who gets angry when you stop performing. That's the mask losing oxygen. Notice who suddenly looks dangerous or untrustworthy when you withdraw your projections. That's your own shadow walking back home to you. Notice the inner turmoil when a complex is triggered, but you refuse to let it take the driver's seat. This is where the real work begins. You're not fighting them. You're simply observing them, starving them of the unconscious energy they crave. This isn't about being passive. It's about being powerful in your stillness. Here is a challenge for you. Try the 24-hour silence gap. For the next 24 hours, create a space between stimulus and response. No instant defending of your actions. No instant yes to a request. No instant reaction to a perceived slight. Just a gap, a breath, a moment of silence. Observe what emerges in that space. Observe the discomfort. Observe the clarity. This simple act is the first key to unlocking your own jail cell. In part 3, we're going to take this act of withdrawal and turn it into alchemy. We'll explore how to transform that silent space into stoic calm, how to build boundaries that bite, and how to execute the clean exit that permanently ends manipulation. The escape route isn't about fighting harder. It's about getting smarter. Stay tuned. What happens to a manipulator when you give them nothing to grip? No hurry, no heat, no explanation. They become like a climber on a smooth glass wall. They slip. This is the power of strategic withdrawal. The alchemy we're exploring today. It's not about running away. It's about reclaiming your power by turning silence, boundaries, and control into your strongest allies. For too long, we've been told that silence is passive, that it's a sign of surrender. But what if it is the exact opposite? Think of a blacksmith's forge. To create a strong blade, you need intense, focused heat contained in one place. Your energy, your thoughts, your emotions. Your attention is that fire. When you're constantly reacting, explaining, and justifying yourself to others, especially to those who drain you, you're scattering that fire. It loses its power. Silence is the forge. It contains your energy, concentrating it until it becomes sharp, focused, and powerful. It's not about ignoring someone to punish them. It is about refusing to leak your vital energy into a situation that won't benefit from it. When you stop feeding the drama, the fire dies down, and what remains is your own strength, forged and ready. This leads us directly to the art of setting boundaries. Most people think boundaries are walls you build to keep others out. They see them as a form of punishment. If you do that again, I won't talk to you. That's not a boundary. It's an ultimatum. A true boundary isn't about controlling others. It's about protecting your own center. Imagine your mind and your energy field as your home. You wouldn't let just anyone walk in, put their muddy feet on your furniture, and rearrange your belongings, would you? Of course not. Boundaries are the doors and windows to your inner home. They protect you from what I call psychic contagion, the way another person's negativity, anxiety, or manipulative tactics can seep into your own system and disrupt your peace. A boundary isn't a wall, it's a filter. It lets in what nourishes you and keeps out what depletes you. It's a quiet, firm declaration that says, my inner peace is my responsibility, and I will protect it. So, how do we apply this in the real world? Let's start with a practical tool, the gravity test. It's incredibly simple. After you interact with someone, whether in person, on the phone, or even just texting close, and ask yourself, do I feel clearer, lighter, and more like myself? Or do I feel heavier, drained, and confused? Pay attention to your body. Do your shoulders feel tight? Is there a knot in your stomach? That is your internal compass telling you that you've encountered a gravitational pull that is dragging you down. Your energy is being siphoned. The gravity test isn't about judging the other person as good or bad. It's about recognizing the effect they have on asterisk. The result gives you the data you need to decide how to adjust your boundaries. Once you've identified a draining connection, you need to implement what I call the no rescue rule. Many of us are natural helpers. We see someone struggling, and our first instinct is to jump in and save them. But this often creates a cycle of dependency where we do all the work, and they learn nothing. The no rescue rule states that your aid must match the other person's effort. Are they actively trying to solve their own problem? Or are they just complaining and expecting you to fix it for them? If you offer a solution, and they meet it with yeah, but ... it's a sign to step back. You can offer support. You can listen. But you cannot carry them. Rescuing someone who isn't trying to swim only results in both of you drowning. Protecting your energy means letting others be responsible for their own. Finally, we have the distance dividend. This is about creating space before you grant access. In our hyper-connected world, we're expected to be available 24/7. A manipulator thrives on this immediacy. They create a false sense of urgency to push you into making a decision before you've had time to think. The distance dividend is your antidote. When you receive a demanding text or an urgent request, instead of replying immediately, you deliberately introduce a delay. This isn't about playing games. It's about giving yourself time to reconnect with your center and consult your own wisdom. Time is the currency of clarity. By creating distance, you take back control of the timeline. ULLB, amazed at how many emergencies resolve themselves when you do UNT jump in right away. The dividend you get is clarity, composure, and control over your own response. Run the gravity test with one person this week and act on the result. In part quattro, we enter the cave. Active imagination, shadow contracts, and the confrontation that turns fear into fuel. Have you ever felt like they're S? A part of you that S running the show from behind the scenes. A hidden director you can't fire. Today, we're gonna sit down with that director, that monster, that shadow, and have a little chat. Carl Jung, the master of this work, wasn't about vague self-help affirmations. His method was surgical, precise. It's about engaging in a direct dialogue with the characters that show up in your dreams, your daydreams, and even your darkest moods. The goal, to let the shadow speak for so long and so honestly that it finally takes off its mask. So, let's try a little exercise. Find a quiet space. Close your eyes. Now, bring to mind the part of yourself you feel ashamed of. Maybe it's your envy, your anger, your laziness, or that biting inner critic. Picture it sitting in a chair across from you. It might look grotesque, or maybe it looks just like you, but with a different expression. Now, lean in and ask it a simple, powerful question. What job have I secretly hired you to do? Don't rush for an answer. Just listen. Maybe that envy you feel, you hired it to keep you ambitious, to stop you from becoming complacent. Maybe that crushing anxiety, you hired it to keep you safe, to scan the horizon for every possible threat so you'd never be caught off guard again. These aren't excuses. They're contracts. Shadow contracts. They are the secret deals you made with parts of yourself a long time ago to be liked, to feel safe, or even to feel superior. You see, that monster isn't there to destroy you. It's working for you, but it's using old, outdated, and often destructive methods. It acts like an employee who has been doing the same job for 20 years without a performance review. The job description has changed. The company has changed, but they're still following the original, now inefficient, instructions. The process of renegotiating these contracts is what Jung called it's about bringing these hidden agreements out into the light of day, when you can look that shadow in the eye and say, okay, I see what you've been doing for me. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. Ambitious. Protected, but your methods are causing more harm than good. Let's find a new way. That's when real transformation begins. This is where you start meeting the other archetypes, like the anima or animista, inner feminine or masculine energies. You begin to integrate opposites. You realize you can be both strong and vulnerable, both ambitious and content, both logical and intuitive. You're not trying to kill the shadow. You're trying to integrate its raw energy. It's about reclaiming the power you exiled to the basement of your psyche, but doing it consciously, so you don't become a tyrant ruled by that very power. Think about a time you felt a surge of irrational anger over something small. That's the shadow knocking. Instead of suppressing it or lashing out, what if you paused and asked, what is this anger really about? What boundary was just crossed that I wasn't consciously aware of? You're not just managing a mood, you're mining it for gold. You're learning its language. This isn't about becoming a perfect, enlightened being. It's about becoming whole. It's about acknowledging that the monster in the interview chair is a part of you. A powerful and vital part of you that has been misunderstood and mismanaged. By giving it a voice, you give it a new job. You turn your inner saboteur into your most trusted advisor. The energy it was using for self-destruction can be repurposed for creation, for connection, for living a fuller, more authentic life. The shadow holds the key to your greatest strengths, but it holds them hostage until you have the courage to face it. It's the dragon guarding the treasure, and the only way to get the treasure is to talk to the dragon. Ask it what it wants, what it fears, and what job you hired it to do. The answer might just set you free. So, here's your mission, should you choose to accept it. It's a 7-day shadow audit. Each night, before you sleep, write down just 2 lines about any dream you can remember. Then, note one shadow trigger from your day 1 moment. You had an outsized emotional reaction. Finally, write one honest ask to that shadow part of yourself, like we practiced. What are you trying to protect me from? Or, what do you need from me right now? Just 7 days. In part 5, we're going to take everything you uncover in that audit and fuse it all into sovereignty. We'll build your daily blueprint for a mind that no one, not even your own shadow, can colonize without your permission. Have you ever felt like you're living in someone else's weather report, constantly tossed around by their moods, their demands, their drama? What if I told you that true freedom isn't about escaping the storm, but about becoming the unshakable captain of your own ship? Imagine waking up and truly feeling it. No one else's storm can board your ship unless you lower the ladder. That feeling isn't a fantasy. It's called sovereignty. It's the ultimate compass for your life. So, how do we build this sovereign self? It starts with the small things, what I call micro-WUDs. These are tiny promises you make to yourself and never, ever break. Maybe it's 5 minutes of silent reflection every morning, no matter what. Maybe it's turning off your phone during dinner. These aren't just habits. They're acts of self-respect. You're telling yourself, my commitment to me matters more than the immediate demands of the world. Each micro-oath you keep is another plank in the hull of your ship, making you more resilient. Next, let's talk about solitude. In our hyper-connected world, being alone is often seen as a problem to be solved. But for the sovereign individual, solitude isn't loneliness. It's a workshop. It has focused time where you can hear your own thoughts without the noise of others' opinions. This is where you get to know who you really are, away from the roles you play for your boss, your family, or your friends. This is where you can untangle your own feelings from the ones you've absorbed from others. Don't just be alone. Use your solitude. Read, think, create. Protect this time fiercely. It's the shipyard where you repair and upgrade your vessel. Now, let's get practical about attention. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Where you spend it determines the quality of your life. So, you need an attention budget. Just like with money, you have a finite amount. Are you spending it scrolling through feeds that make you feel inadequate? Or are you investing in knowledge, skills, and relationships that enrich you? Start tracking it. At the end of the day, ask yourself, where did my focus go? Was it on your goals? Or was it hijacked by digital distractions and other people's priorities? You are the CEO of your mind. It's time to manage its most precious resource with intention. This leads us to the most complex part. Relationships. Sovereign relationships are not built on comfort. They are calibrated by truth. This means you stop telling people what they want to hear just to keep the peace. It means you're willing to have difficult conversations because you value honesty over harmony. This doesn't mean being brutal. It means being clear and authentic. When your yes is genuine, it becomes incredibly valuable. When your no is firm and comes from a place of self-preservation, people learn to respect it. And when you choose silence, it's not passive aggression. It's a final, powerful statement that a boundary has been reached. This entire process is what the great thinkers called becoming who you are. The philosopher Nietzsche urged us to embrace our unique destiny, and the psychologist Carl Jung called it Individuation, the journey of integrating all parts of ourselves, light and shadow, to become a whole, complete person. When you walk this path, your calm becomes unreactive. You can observe the chaos around you without getting pulled into it. Your yes becomes costly, given only to what truly aligns with your core values. Your silence becomes final, a boundary that needs no further explanation. You are no longer a raft at the mercy of the waves. You are a sovereign ship, charting your own course with a steady hand. So, let's make this real. It's time to break a chain. Comment below with the one chain you'll cut this week. Is it a persona you're tired of wearing? A projection you've been carrying for someone else? Or a specific complex that's been holding you back? And tell us the ritual you'll use to break it. Subscribe for our next chapter, where we'll explore psychological dominance witut cruelty, how to lead, negotiate, and love without ever losing yourself. Thank you for watching.